welcome to Comedy Classroom, the podcast made for, by, and about students of comedy. Today I have a very, very special guest. I have done so many things with this person. We've made music, we've done improv, we've hosted improv, we've done plays. Is there anything else that I should add to that list that I'm leaving out?
We've done some things on some games.
Right,
together.
we've done some YouTube things, which has also been fun. This is the wonderful Emmett Hanley, who is he's an improviser, musician, playwright, I guess.
And an actor.
An actor
Yes.
extraordinaire.
Oh, shucks.
Yeah. So I asked you before we started recording, but how have you been?
I'm good. I'm very tired, but it's...
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is going to be a tired podcast.
Yeah, we're both very sleepy boys.
The sleepiest of boys.
Yeah.
But yeah, you just finished a run of a show.
Yes, I did.
It was called, for those of you who don't know, it was called Alleyway Wolves. It was the first production of Tall Tales Theater, is what it's called. I feel bad if I got the name wrong.
No, it's Tall Tales. You're good.
Yeah. So, like, almost everyone that was involved in this play I knew, except for Travis.
Yeah, and he ended up being a really chill dude.
He seems like a really cool guy.
Yeah.
He did his role well.
Yeah.
And that was part of the first official Siloam Theater Festival.
Yeah, I have no idea how to pronounce that word. Siloam.
I just
Shalom.
That's a different thing. But I feel like that should also be a thing.
Yeah, it should. The Shalom.
Welcome to the Shalom Theater Festival.
Yeah.
Oh man. So, I should have written down all of the things that I wanted to talk about, but I think I'll try and remember them as they come. So you have a knack for playing villains.
Yeah, sort
Or
of,
not necessarily always villains, but like at least morally dubious characters.
It's because I'm morally dubious in real life.
Very fair. Some particular times come to mind, such as being Angelo in Comedy of Errors, which you really kind of made that character your own.
Yeah.
Who was your 24th?
Yeah, for the 24-hour theater, 2 years consecutively, I was villains.
Yeah.
And the first year I was the crippled man, aka Dave Dithers.
Yeah.
Who was basically a pirate who was a lot more pathetic than anything else.
Yeah.
And then the following year, for the play was called How to Pay for Mime School for 24-hour theater. I played Tiberius Smoke.
Yes.
Who was like this Jack the Ripper style kind of villain, who ended up being an actor who had just deluded himself into becoming, his role was to be
the ultimate method actor.
Yeah,
really.
The ultimate method actor. His role was to be the psycho Victorian Gothic murderer. And he got so obsessed with his role that he actually decided to become a gothic murderer by the end of the play.
It's just like, I'm already here, might as well commit.
I have gone deeper into this role than anyone ever has or ever will.
That's the edgy interpretation of Hamlet come alive.
Honestly, it is. Dang, now that play is making me think that it was smarter than it was.
Whoa. Let's not read too much into something that was written
overnight.
Written overnight by two very sleepy people.
And drunk people.
Yes. Yes. We're not gonna mention that, but we're not gonna mention that they were indeed drunk.
Yeah. Well, not gonna say anything about that.
No, of course not. Dave Dithers wasn't I mean, I feel like he falls more on the side of morally dubious.
Yeah. Like, I mean, he was a pirate, so, like, you know, there's still all the pirating things that he presumably did off screen.
Yeah.
But, like, within the play itself, he's just more of a bumbling idiot.
He's like a more insecure Jack Sparrow.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. More insecure and more incompetent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Angelo. I feel like you've told me this story before, but if you don't know the character Angelo, the goldsmith from the Comedy of Errors, if you read the play, there's not really a whole lot there to garner about his character.
Yeah. Basically, all in the script, all Angelo does is he comes on and he's like, Antipholus, I'll go get you your gold chain that you ordered for your wife. But then, of course, I bring it to Antipholus' twin, who has just come to town, and
the other Antipholus.
So I give it to the wrong one, and then I see the right one again, and the right one's like, "Hey, where's my chain?" And I'm like, "I gave you your chain. Give me the money." And so then I try to get him arrested because he isn't paying me for the thing that I thought I gave him. So, in the script itself, Angelo could be just played as just some regular guy who gets roped up in this ridiculous scenario that
he could have been played like a really nice guy.
Yeah, he could have just been some random dude. But, of course, I ended up being cast in this role. And it's like, okay, there's not too much that I can go on from the script, but for those of you who might not know, this concept that we were doing for this play was to set this Shakespearean comedy in the disco 70s. So Angelo kind of became sort of this lounge lizard who
I have not heard that phrase used to describe him until now, but that really is perfect.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, he's the kind of guy who wears aviator sunglasses indoors.
Yeah.
And hair slicked back, high-waisted brown pants, these shining white leather suede shoes sort of thing. And they were vinyl. The shoes were vinyl.
It was easily my favorite costume other than my own.
Yeah, because it was so disgusting.
Yeah.
I looked absolutely ridiculous, and it was amazing.
Yeah. I loved your costume for the exact opposite reason that I loved Aegean's costume. Because Aegean just had this very, like, cool, like kind of brownish, greenish suit that had these nice, like, kind of burgundy things going on there, and it was very, very nice and classy, even though he was all run down. Yeah. And then there's freaking Angelo,
who's like, I've also got all this bling on. I've got gold chains.
Didn't you have like
rings on nearly everything?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And
I seem to remember you had like an almost see-through shirt.
Well, no, it was just that it was sort of like it had a zipper. That was sort of like, it was all done up, it would look like a polo, but when it was down, it went like, halfway down my chest, so you could just see all the chest hair.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
which of course you had zipped down.
Yeah, all the way down, of course, because this is the 70s. And, you gotta have that.
If you have chest hair, people need to know.
Yeah. So, yeah, essentially Carrie's idea for this play was that there were kind of almost two worlds in the city that it took place in. There was like, sort of like the, the things where everything went down, in an orderly, more or less respectable fashion, like the higher class. Yeah. And then there was just the seedy underbelly of the city. And Angelo was one of the people who was a part of that seedy underbelly of the city, and that's what I decided to run with, was like, okay, there's this underworld and I want to be a part of it.
I'm gonna start a band called the Seedy Underbellies.
Oh yeah, the Seedy Underbellies. That sounds kind of gross, actually.
It'll be like trash punk.
Oh yeah.
Like a cross between Stomp and like just really
total
like Beastie
punk.
Boys.
Yeah. Just crusty.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And so yeah, I thought like Angelo's probably the sort of guy who has like a pawn shop, and
Yeah.
he's the goldsmith, so evidently he deals in kind of the sort of jewelry that doesn't come from anywhere respectable. It's most likely the sort of thing that comes from, somebody brings it into his shop and he buys it. So like that gold chain that I was giving Antipholus definitely, probably came from somebody else's house.
Oof.
But yeah, so that's sort of just the way that Angelo sort of got became who he was, and the physicality just sort of followed, where I was just always kind of leaning back, had one hand tucked into the belt, just so I could show off all the rings.
kind of like a single T-Rex arm.
Yeah. And like I was thinking like disco, and like some guy who just thinks he's so cool and really isn't.
Yeah.
And so just that kind of just like formed into this like kind of like swaggery sort of like just like slimy walk that I would just use to sneeze around.
It was very slimy.
Yeah, and people evidently loved it. So
they very much did.
I did something right.
The part where Aegean like comes out like right at the end of the intermission is like, hey, can anyone bail me out? And I always have to like kind of stifle my laughter whenever I get to you.
Yeah. Well, that's because like all I did was laugh. I was just like
everyone else is just like kind of passive aggressively mean spirited.
Yeah.
Whereas you were just like, I don't like you, and I don't have a problem with showing it.
Yeah. Well, that was even in the very first scene of the play. Like, is when you get arrested, and I'm like, all right, I'm so ready to see an execution today. And then the Duke is like, no, we'll give you a chance to find anybody in the town who will, give you some kind of bail. And I'm just like, what the heck are you doing?
Oh no!
Used a hand gesture that knocked a bunch of things over.
Oh my. You knocked over my Dungeons and Dragons figurines.
Oh no, I'm so sorry.
That would be a funny character if it were not actually true.
Yeah. Rip.
Oh well. We'll fix it in post.
Yeah. But yeah, it was just a ton of fun, and I loved playing that character.
Yeah.
So much. Just get to be on stage and goof off.
Did you find yourself like kind of using some of that for Stanley in Alleyway?
Yeah, so for the Alleyway Wolves, it's kind of funny because it felt like Stanley was a bit of a spiritual successor to Angelo, except Stanley was more openly evil.
Yeah.
Whereas Angelo, again, he's more morally dubious than evil.
Yeah.
Stanley is a fairly evil person.
He's straight up just a bad dude.
Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, I'm still pathetic and I'm still slimy.
Yeah.
But Stanley's more willing to, like,
Stanley puts on this kind of, like, more dignified front.
Yeah. So, essentially, who Stanley was in the Alleyway Wolves, Stanley is a con man who... basically, he started courting the apothecary Belladonna in hopes of moving through her to some of her more wealthy clientele. That's literally a line from the play that I just said. Jeez.
Wow. Motivations.
The best way to describe him is using things that he actually says about himself.
Great.
But, like, essentially, he's this guy who doesn't really see people as being anything more than tools to move himself through society. Just
like all the way to the end of the Slytherin spectrum.
Basically. So like Stanley, in my mind, Stanley started as kind of like the lowest of the low. He was, likely an orphan who was had nothing at all to call his own.
Yeah.
But he was somewhat clever and was able to sort of move his way slowly throughout his life to the top of, like, again, a criminal underworld. And for so long both
Yeah.
resented and envied the
Which
people
is
who are high class and wanted to be that so
which
bad.
is interesting because you all like in the same play you also have Brendan Wolfe,
Yeah.
who also is an orphan
Hmm.
and is starting and has nothing really to call his own,
Yeah.
and is just kind of like making a living off stealing things and ripping people off.
Yeah.
But
Exactly.
he's a much less
Evil person.
yeah
He does what he does because he feels like he has to, and that he
Yeah.
feels like he doesn't fit into the mold of society. Whereas Wolf isn't trying to fit into the mold of society. Stanley is, but he's
Right.
doing it in the wrong way.
right
So like, yeah, Stanley ultimately cared for no one other than himself,
yeah
and basically all Stanley wanted was just money, and
Yeah.
that's basically all that Stanley really, really cared about was
Yeah.
being able to get money for himself to move into a higher class.
Yeah. One thing I was trying to figure out while I was watching the play was what exactly is Stanley's relationship to Belladonna?
So
Because there were some really entertaining scenes where like the back and forth, like it's I felt like I was watching, I don't know if that's a Katy Perry song where it's like the hot and the cold.
yeah, yeah. So essentially, okay. Sorry if this sounds strange, but Belladonna and Stanley were. So essentially, Stanley started courting Belladonna because she, had this list of wealthy clients that were
Right.
all basically
She had
really rich old
yeah,
people.
she had wealthy connections.
Mhm. They were all really rich old people that she would be delivering her products to. So I then used that to, try and scam these people. However, in courting Belladonna, I sort of got way in over my head because Bella's just this crazy person who
Right.
is a very, very sexual being in this world.
She so is.
Yeah, whereas Stanley, I like to think Stanley's more or less money sexual, whereas all Stanley
Yeah.
wants is money, whereas Bella was very, very much trying to get Stanley into the bedroom for the entire
Yes. Yeah. And Uliana really kind of leans into that.
Yeah, and Stanley had found that entirely exhausting.
Yeah.
And just but it's now that he'd gotten wrapped up in this con with Rose's grandmother to steal her orchard, and that's how Wolf gets brought in and everything.
Mhm.
Because he got wrapped up in this con, he kind of can't get away from Belladonna until it's over. So Stanley's more or less putting up with her, as well as trying to keep her satisfied.
Right.
But Stanley really doesn't want to. It's like, this is exhausting, but I have to keep this up. Whereas Bella's just like, oh yes, Stanley's the man of her dreams, who's going to make her rich and get her out of her dumb job as an apothecary.
Yeah.
And yeah, basically that.
When I watched this play was when I found out what the heck an apothecary is.
Yeah.
When I was auditioning, I was like, I don't know, does that mean she's like part of a nunnery?
No, it's like they make potions and stuff.
So
like
it's
that.
kind of like an alchemist.
Yeah, sort of. It's like an alchemist, but a little less mythical and crazy.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So they're not trying to make gold; they just make potions and that sort of thing, and sort of like a shaman. No,
Nice.
That's shaman, but way less spiritual. I don't know what I'm talking about. But yeah, so that's basically what Belladonna did,
Okay.
and yeah.
She's like a lawful evil healer.
Yeah, we'll go with that. Yeah.
Put it in a language that we can understand.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the thing about Stanley, though, is that he thinks that he's the smartest person like, that he's ever met.
Yeah.
And so Stanley kind of has this viewpoint of the world where, you know, it's a dog eat dog sort of thing.
Yeah.
And Stanley wants to be that top dog so much, and he already thinks he's that top dog. And a lot of the comedy in that play comes from when Stanley is brought lower than other people.
Right.
So it's a huge, like, a lot of it is, especially in the scenes that I was in, it's the power dynamics that really
it's
feeds
kind of
into the things.
status changes.
Yeah, exactly. Because there was the scene where I was with Wolf, where he kind of found out about.
He finds out that you were looking for the letter.
He finds out that I was looking for the letter from Rose's grandma that said that she was going to be selling the orchard and I wanted the money. At the end of the scene, he's like, "Oh, if you're such a professional con man, you shouldn't tell other people about your. You shouldn't spill your entire con." And that's kind of just how. I don't know. I just think it's hilarious.
It is.
That whole
exchange. It's a very fun scene.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We have hosted and tried to teach improv.
Yes.
Which I think, I don't know, I like to think that I was okay at the teaching because at some point I would like to be a teacher, so I want to feel like I'm good at it in some way.
Yeah.
But it's such a weird thing to teach.
Yeah. And I wasn't actually around for the semester where most of the teaching happened.
Yeah,
and
that's also true.
So I'm also going to be relying very heavily on for next year when I'm coordinating. I'm going to be relying very heavily on Karina to do most of the teaching, whereas
she is an education major,
so I hope that she knows more about that.
She'll have a much more organized curriculum than I ever did.
So, which will be, I still need to really talk to her and really set up everything for next year. But
yeah, I have my own experience because I was coordinating for the entire year, and had to deal with things like getting a new coordinator, and stuff like that. How did you find kind of hopping into it halfway through the year?
It was both kind of nerve-wracking, but also kind of chill at the same time.
Yeah.
Because I knew I wouldn't have to be doing teaching.
Right.
That was the part that probably stressed me out the most, was the idea of just having to teach something that I just do.
Yeah.
Because for me, it's like, I went through all of the basics, like, every year. But for me, it's just when I'm doing improv, it's like, I've learned the things that I do and the things that I don't do and the things that work well for me personally. And then I just get up there and do it.
Yeah. It's more of it's just kind of like muscle memory.
Yeah, exactly. And kind of like going by feel and reading the scene and just seeing what I can do with that.
Yeah. Especially since, because, with every kind of skill that one can have, there are the people that are more just kind of, it's just a muscle that they flex and they just naturally do it.
Yeah.
Regardless of of kind of the quote unquote necessary elements that good improv might have.
Yeah.
They just kind of go and try things.
Yeah.
And then there are the people that are much more technique minded, where it's like, all right, in order to make sure that this is a successful scene, I gotta make sure that I establish this and this and this.
Yeah.
And we can go from there.
Yeah.
Which, obviously both are legitimate ways of going about it. But there are also dangers where if you're only relying on instincts and muscle memory, then there's kind of the risk of creating scenes where people are like, I don't really know where we're going with this.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's a balance you have to strike, and I think, having done improv for like, a few years now, that's like the more you do it, the more you learn to avoid awkward situations
Yes.
and how to avoid any kind of awkward situation like that. So it's kind of the thing I find about improv is it, at least in my experience, is that it's something I learned by doing, and by doing more of, and the more I do it, the better the better I am at it.
Right.
And so that's where kind of like the idea of it being a difficult thing to teach sort of like comes in for me, is that it's just like, okay, this is just something that I do.
Yeah.
So coming in that second semester was like, okay, this is the one where this is the semester where it's what the people want to do, and the things that they want to work on. Because like, if they have a specific skill they want to work on, it's like, okay, I know this game is really good for that skill, and so we can just do that game. Whereas like just building those foundations is like, okay, this is going to be an interesting thing to learn.
You kind of have to learn to like dissect things.
Yeah.
And be like, all right, so this is what happened, which is in remembering what happens in an improv scene is its own challenge.
Yeah.
I've realized like I every time someone was like, I loved that one scene that you did in 1107, and I was like, and I'm like always like, which one? And they're like, the one where you did this and this and this, and I'm like, okay,
yeah, that one.
I think I remember that. And like, it's such a weird thing where you're so focused, and like, I don't know, it's a weird like kind of soft focus, but very intense soft focus.
Yeah.
Where you're just like in the scene, and then you're done the scene, and you're done with that story forever.
Yeah, exactly. And then it's just like, move on to the next one, and move on to the next one, and move on to the next one.
Yeah. So
especially in games such as like blind freeze tag, whereas like you're building something up, and then all of a sudden they could just end it at any second, and then you're completely done with that forever.
Yeah.
It's never coming back.
Yeah, and obviously there are very memorable scenes that you kind of like log into your brain as
exactly.
These were the good ones.
And like certain shows that are like, okay, I definitely remember the thing that I did, and I definitely remember it was from that show, but like overall it's like, okay. Yeah.
What would you say, like, what's the first, like, memorable improv scene that you can think of?
The most memorable improv that I remember myself doing, and this is kind of like my magnum opus of improv. It's
right.
Like, it's never getting better from there.
Yeah.
It was the Valentine's Day show.
Oh, this is the one I wasn't there for.
2017 Valentine's Day, The Bachelor.
Yeah.
That was the show. And essentially, the way that it worked was we had to play the same character for an entire like half of the night, and then switch to a different character for the other half of the night, because it functioned as sort of like The Bachelor, where you were. It was sort of like a challenge to see who would end up winning the Bachelor or Bachelorette's heart.
Right.
And so, like the first half was The Bachelor, the second half was The Bachelorette.
The whole half is a game of Bachelor. That's interesting.
Yeah, and it honestly was so much fun. I loved that show so much, and I wish, part of me is like, okay, maybe I can figure something out for next year.
And because I knew that you had the character of like Donk May May.
Yeah, and so that was the character that I was for the first one, was because Corbin was our bachelor, so we all, because it's Trinity, had to make sure that we were perfectly gender bent here.
Right.
So I was Le Donk May May, the European sort of, the dubiously European supermodel lady. And this was, I think we had Jane Eyre rehearsal or something that day, because my hair had to be curled for that show.
Oh.
So my hair was all curly, and it was... it was a time, and that was the most that was just the most memorable thing I've ever done, because people still every now and then, like, or at least last year at Trinity, people would come up to me and be like, "Hey, you're Le Donk May May," and the thing is that like also like during that show, people would get it at different times throughout the night. So like every now and then, like I'd just be like, you know, doing a scene as this like goofy, ridiculous character that I was just coming up with on the spot, and somebody in like the back row would be like, "Oh, dank me." And yeah, no, that was some.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And ever since then, it's like, okay, there's just it's never getting better from there. That's as good as it's ever gonna be. And
you never know.
Yeah, I didn't end up winning it. I came in second place. In The Bachelor. Corbin ended up going with Becca, because
what was Becca's character?
Becca's character ended up just through an audience suggestion halfway through playing that character. Through an audience suggestion, she ended up becoming blind.
Oh,
so she was this really like kind of. I don't remember if she was like, you know, but she was like her character was the sweet one who was like really nice, and she was the blind girl.
Oh.
And so Corbin almost picked me, but the audience was like, no, you have to go with the blind girl. So I don't remember if I got booed or anything, but it was still hilarious. And like, you know, yeah. So Becca ended up winning that one, and but overall that was. Everybody just absolutely loved La Donk May May.
Nice.
And
would you say
sassy European model?
That is so interesting because, like, would you say that you've gotten more recognition for that than you have for actually coordinating?
I don't know, because like I felt like as a coordinator, it's kind of weird. Because I felt like I didn't really get more recognition for doing that in a way.
Right.
Because, like, you know, I think people recognize me and know who I am because every now and then some random person will come up to me at Trinity and be like, "Hey, Emmett, how's it going?" And then I'll be like, "I have no idea who on earth you are."
Yes.
But they'll act like I should know who they are.
Absolutely.
Never seen them before in my life. So, like, but overall, more than any other thing that I've done, like, you know, I just get called La Donk May May at random points throughout life.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll happen so much next year because there'll be, like, you know, a lot of those people are gone. It was a preview weekend show, though, so...
Oh, yeah.
So I honestly don't know, but...
You never know, we might be getting some freshmen.
Yeah, I might be getting some freshmen who are like, "Hey, you're La Donk May May." Like, oh, yeah,
like,
there's that.
I remember.
Yeah. Pepperidge Farm remembers. But yeah, that was. Yeah, I would say that one was the most memorable. But
that's so funny. I do because like 2017, 2018.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, that was this past year.
That was last year. Yeah.
So 2016, 2017, I feel like people like kind of kind of were talking at me more than I was this year, because like this year I was less of a player and more of just the guy that runs things.
Yeah, but at the same time, you're still very recognizable, and I think people almost, in a way, it's almost more intimidating to talk to the coordinator than a player.
Yeah, I wonder if I've almost gotten to the point where I'm just like one of those like faces that people just see and they don't even like need to say hi to me. They're just like, "Oh yeah, that's Connor."
Yeah. It's like, yeah.
Everybody knows Connor, and then I'm like, not everybody knows me. Who was I talking to? It was either talking because I went and saw Romeo and Juliet.
Oh, I think you were talking with Shauna.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she was like, I talked to this one friend. She was like, Did you ever go to 1107? And she was like, never heard of it.
Yeah, so I'm going to Trinity and not knowing what 1107 is apparently something you can do, and that's kind of disheartening. the
only explanation that I could have is that she either lived off campus or lived in Northwest.
Yeah.
And never went
into R&T.
Never went into R&T. Never had a class.
A single poster on the wall for anything.
I mean, to be fair, you kind of end up start tuning those posters out.
Yeah. Yeah. I need to think of some way to work around that this year.
Right?
You know.
I mean, if you really want to, you could bring back promo videos. They're a lot of work. They're a lot of fun, and they're not always worth the effort.
I don't know who on earth like edits videos within.
Well, when we were
Like
doing
some
those,
videos.
we used to have we had Trevor
Yeah.
doing them.
Because I remember, yeah, exactly. Trevor would, but
I think occasionally Joel did.
yeah, Joelle did for quite a few of them. I know
Yeah.
her and Shan both.
Oh yeah, you're
headed
right.
those up
Yeah.
for that year.
Yeah.
But like, honestly, I don't know who in 1107 would do that now. And it's again, I don't know how much hype they even got because it's like you share them on Facebook, but
Yeah.
you're then limited to your own audience of the people who actually look at your own Facebook things.
I wonder if it could even be, if there could even be the potential for like just doing like kind of some sort of publicity stunt.
Actually, I was sort of thinking of that too. I'm gonna be talking to Karina, and we're gonna be, I guess, throwing our ideas out there, and making progress, and I guess stuff like that.
Yeah.
But one of the things I was thinking of doing was maybe before every show, flash mobbing or something.
Yeah.
Doing some improv in like the cap and being like,
Yeah.
yo, 1107 this Friday, you want more of this? But
That was just a sample.
yeah. Although the only thing about that kind of worries me is that a lot of the time, sort of impromptu improv can be very just awkward and crazy.
Yeah.
So it's like you have to.
You don't have to tell me, Mr. Orientation Week,
Yeah.
we're standing outside a rhymer. Hey guys,
Yeah.
come sit on the grass.
Yeah. So it's just yeah. I'm gonna be doing some brainstorming, and because that's one thing I really want to push this year for 1107 is
Yeah.
just marketing the heck out of it and getting people to come to see 1107 and making it the thing to do on
Yeah.
Friday nights.
Well, that's also what I was saying is like I have such a problem. I have such a struggle with marketing things because I have the voice in my head that's like
Yeah.
you don't want to make this too big of a thing. You don't like why would you bring that much attention to yourself? Don't take
Yeah.
yourself so seriously.
That's the other thing is that it's like then I'm putting myself out there
Yeah.
and that's always a risk, but at the same time I'm also an actor and it's literally my job to put myself out
That's
there.
true.
So it's
Yeah.
if I fail horribly, at least I'm failing boldly.
Indeed.
As cheesy as that is.
Yeah.
I'd rather I don't know. We'll see how it all ends up.
We will indeed. Yeah. What was the other thing that I wanted to say? Oh, I'm curious if you will perhaps volunteer some insider information. Have you guys been coming up with themes for shows?
Literally, me and Karina still have to talk about it, so
Okay.
not yet. I've got one or two ideas, and it's gonna be 6 shows a semester.
Right.
This is a spoiler alert. Some of the shows, because apparently admissions wants to have preview nights or a couple of different preview nights a semester on Thursday nights.
Right.
There's going to be a couple 1107s within the year that'll happen on Thursday nights.
What?
It's because admissions buys out the whole thing.
Right. I get that.
So,
Interesting.
yeah, I mean, it's something that it's just I got told, and that's the way it is.
Okay.
So
Okay.
but of course, some of the themes are going to have to relate to the shows upcoming next year, being A Game of Love and Chance
Yeah.
and Upside Down Christmas and Anne of Green Gables.
Yeah.
But other than that, and of course the senior show being at the end of the year, other
Yeah.
than that, there's nothing that's specifically
Like
needs to be anything.
Yeah. You have like a couple of the like kind of themed holiday ones.
Yeah.
Like
Upside Down Christmas just covers the Christmas one.
You've already got a Christmas show.
It's funny because there's still an 1107 that happens after that one, which is closer to Christmas.
That can be the exam break one.
Yeah. So we'll, I'll talk to Karina. Although one that I've really wanted to happen ever since first year, and again, I have to talk to Karina and we have to sort it out for sure. But just one theme, or at least a name for one night of 1107. However it ends up being, I have no idea.
Yeah.
But I've always just wanted there to be Unleavened 07. That has something to do with, like, pita bread.
You can do a Hanukkah show.
Yeah, sure. We can work with that. Where it's just like, maybe we serve pita in the lobby or something. I don't know.
Why not?
But just
there's always, like...
Yeah.
There's always, like, freaking, like show names that people just like have been sitting on for years.
I've been sitting on that one for as long as I can remember from being in 1107. Like
I remember Andrew had the one where he was like, "Can we name one of them 1107 course meal?"
That's funny,
right?
I might steal that.
Yeah,
Karina. Yeah, no.
Or maybe he was the one that had 1107 Swans of Swimming.
I don't know. I have no idea. You see, that was one of the things about last year is that I had, since I came in late, all the themes were already decided.
Yeah.
So now this year it's like,
okay, cook up yourselves some themes.
Some good themes.
Yeah.
But yeah. As of yet, they have yet to be confirmed, and yet to be even conceived of in my mind.
Yeah.
So that's what you get for the tease.
Yeah. I mean, usually, especially with the show ones, you just kind of have to come up with some sort of weird modification of the show title, and then this is going to be another year of trying to decide whether we want to do an improv musical.
I mean, because there's a musical this year, I feel like there's an expectation. But if it's at all possible, I'm going to, try and veto that one.
Yeah.
It's like, it just doesn't, You have to be specifically working on musical improv.
Which has never been something that we've really spent a whole lot of time. Actually, there was one year when I know that the cast of the improv musical that year actually did a few extra practices. Mm-hmm. I think that was the same year that we started doing Thursday workshops.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that happening because I was really sad that I wasn't in the musical, and I walked by the music building and heard them all practicing in there and had some serious FOMO.
Oh, rip. See, having done the one 1107 musical that I did do, it's like I don't. There's nothing worse than being in a scene and then all of a sudden a song that you barely know the tune comes on.
Oh yes.
See, because the only part of the song that I knew of Mamma Mia was the chorus, and then it starts playing right in the middle of me talking. I'm like, I do not know how this song goes other than the hook.
The entire audience is like, oh, that's fear.
Yeah, so it just it's kind of not what 1107's about, I guess, doing musical improv. It could be, but I think 1107's a bit more you just do improv as a university group instead of improv as something that's something that would require the amount of practice you need to do to be musical improv.
Yeah.
to do musical improv. I
Yeah,
guess.
it's a very specific skill that requires more than just knowing how to improvise.
Yeah. So like, if 1107 was organized in a way that was like, I don't know, like courses, I guess, where you're doing like each year you're going up in 1107, like 101, 201, 301, 401.
Yeah.
But the way it's done is that every year you're kind of, first semester you're teaching the basics to all of the new people, as well as refreshing them for all of the people who've been doing it for years. And then second semester you're working on what people want to work on.
Yeah.
And that's sort of just the way that it goes every year.
Yeah.
If we were building on really doing something differently, then it would be feasible, but I don't think it is as is.
Yeah. I don't know how I would feel about like if Trinity were to get like an actual like improv program into the theater department.
Yeah, I would like that was just me coming up with that off the top of my head, I guess.
Yeah.
And I prefer, I guess, 1107 as is.
Yeah.
Because it just there's one, not enough people, and two, not enough time.
Yeah.
To do something.
Yeah.
Like that. So.
Yeah.
Like if it was like an improv troupe that was the same people for years, a la like Panic Squad.
Yeah.
Then that's something where you work towards that sort of thing and you do that sort of thing. But 1107 is constantly changing. There's always different people.
Yeah.
There's always new people who are brand new to improv who you have to teach.
Yeah.
And then there's people that just you're the most experienced people that you've ever had. They are always gone.
Yeah.
They're leaving and they're out of there.
Yeah.
So it's just not the way 1107 needs to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a weird beast that we've been doing it in.
Yeah.
So
it's like 1107's, I think for me, it's one of the most important things that I've done.
Absolutely.
At Trinity.
I've said it so many times, but there have been so many times where I felt like I've learned more from 1107 about doing stuff in the real world than
being a human in time and space.
Yeah, than I have in the actual theater program.
Yeah.
Which is not to say that I haven't learned anything in the theater program, but just that doing
really important.
Doing 1107, well, especially now that we're doing off-campus stuff, is like you're learning how to how to advertise yourself and how to present yourself to a wide variety of audiences, whether it's a women's church conference or a
children's theater group. Yeah.
Children's theater group. We've done a lot of churches. Which is mostly because they're like, oh hey, it's an improv group from Trinity Western.
Yeah, exactly.
They'll be funny and clean.
Yeah. So it's kind of the demographic, I guess. But
yeah.
Even the UBC improv battle, that's it's a really good learning experience.
It is.
And I've never been in one.
And
I've always been in shows.
I'm so glad that I've been able to be a part of that, because the Fictionals is like one of the biggest improv companies in Vancouver.
Yeah.
And so to be able to have that connection with Daniel Chai is a really good thing to have, kind of shifting out of the university improv scene into trying to get into some actual Vancouver improv.
Yeah. No, that is good.
So, yeah. I think we'll call that an episode.
Yeah.
We're at a solid. We talked for just slightly more than Joel.
Oh hey, what do you know?
That's a high score to beat.
Yeah, we've set a new high score. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you very much for coming in and sitting on my cajon in my bedroom while we talk about stuff.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
It's been so much of a pleasure. Thank you guys very much for I almost said for watching, but there's no visual component. Thank you very much for listening. If you haven't already listened to my first episode, had a really great talk with Joel Waminga about historical interpretation, acting, and also more improv and comedy of errors and stuff like that. It's a great time. And I'll be letting you all know when the next episode is coming out on my social medias, particularly my Instagram, which is at talllankyguy96, and I think my Twitter is just at connor.teason. Pretty sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, thank you for listening, and we'll see you next class.